So, China wants to use mind control. China is grabbing headlines right now, all over YouTube and elsewhere. Legitimate news sources talking about China's latest foray into wanting to control citizens with mind control, and how they would use this technology if given a chance. And the thing is, it sounds scary. It does sound scary, doesn't it? One thing I know about China is they're always trying to catch up to us in what we are already good at. So, very often is the case too. If you look around, you will see how a lot of what goes on in the headlines tends to be distraction. It tends to be, ooh, look over here. Have you ever heard that saying, the right hand will not know what the left hand is doing, or vice versa? It's basically like that. Don't look at what's going on in the right hand because, ooh, it's over here. Look what's going on over in this country. The left hand, they're out to, oh my gosh, can you believe it? So offensive. They are out to use mind control, to have total control over the citizens, and just disgusting and primitive. The thing is, if these technologies exist, and like I was saying, China, what is China always doing? China and Russia, since the whole space race thing began, is China is just trying to catch up to what we've already been good at, like I just said. So, these governments have no qualms about using this technology, not even if it exists. But it's a matter, if it exists, is the same matter of if, to a person who lives in Iran, does a nuclear warhead exist? Well, we know for sure a nuclear warhead exists. We've seen those, it's common knowledge everywhere that there are countries that have these nuclear warheads. They exist. To a person in Iran, they've only heard about these nuclear warheads in other countries. Yeah, sure, they've heard about, I'm sure they're educated even in Iran over the shit that went down during World War II. But essentially, to a person who lives in Iran, a nuclear warhead is only about to exist, in a way, if you get where I'm going with that. So for people who haven't experienced getting the shaft when it comes to all of these technologies, where it comes to being able to hack the mind, explore the mind in ways that are completely unethical, to the point you can socially engineer and craft the mind, to someone who it's not quite happening to, it's about the same as the nuclear warhead idea to a person in Iran. They have a good idea that it exists. You know, they've seen it, they've heard of it. Don't forget, there's still Holocaust deniers. You know, and what I mean by that is, generally, unless a thing is shoved in your face 24/7, you only have a pretty good idea that it exists, no matter what you've been told about it, etc., etc., etc. Now, unless mind control is shoved in your face 24/7 and this technology has been presented into your life, you have a pretty good theory that it quite possibly exists. And you've maybe seen some people or talked to some people in your life who've been under the duress of it. But even so, you're probably still skeptical. And now we're seeing everywhere, China wants to use this technology, aka China wants to finally catch up in some of this technology. And the thing is, when and if China does catch up, what they do with it is, I would say it probably will be a lot more severe, and if not a lot more severe, it will be almost in a way more sloppy and brutal, just in the sense it's going to be a lot less, here's the word again, nuanced. Here in the US, there's a mastery over this stuff to where it's so subtle and nuanced that you are not going to be able to detect it. It would be like a lot of poisons in the food, or a lot of hormones in the food that lead to cancers, etc., etc. There's no trace of it. There's no odor, no sight of those hormones that are used to jack up cows and even vegetables and fruit and etc., etc., in order to stretch it thin for the extra dollar and to make it bigger with almost supernatural means as you jack it full of hormones. We're talking record breaking. So I almost got a job at the CDC, and at the CDC they weren't supposed to talk about it, but there were rabbits at the CDC that were essentially the size of horses. Why would you have rabbits that are the size of horses? What does this have to do with the usual cases for lab animals when it comes to the unfortunate aspect of life of needing to use a lab animal to basically jack that lab animal full of diseases to see how far that animal can go and bounce back, or what that animal can run on when it comes to schedules of various antibiotic development, this, that, and the other. Rabbits the size of horses. That's really strange. Now we're talking about this monkeypox thing is starting to shape up into the next big outbreak. But I didn't really actually want to get into that right now. Maybe that's some other future upload as I get deeper into that, because it would be really hard and it would take so much extra time to tie that into mind control. But I will say where they overlap is in matters of social engineering. And what is all this mind control stuff for is social engineering. What is all this mind control stuff for? But if you test it on a petri dish called the citizenship that the government does not really give a shit about, all over the world, governments all over the world, other than what they can do. Basically, the social engineering aspect, if this technology exists, there, like I was saying, there is no qualms at all whatsoever about doing what it takes to use this technology to gain the end goal. The end justifies the mean among these people. And why I say that is because when it comes to doing what it takes on the petri dish of humanity to record things down in your ledger and test how far you can push things to where things come back from breaking. Now that's the key phrase right there. How far you can push things to where it comes back from breaking. And if you can start to record what goes on in your citizenship, where it comes to certain citizens who come back from the breaking point, then you are that much closer to building super soldiers who come back from breaking points. That would be the end game when it comes to the supremacy of the elites and who is able to run this shit. Who is able to run this shit has task forces, elite task forces, elite super soldiers who can be captured and tortured without ever saying a word, without ever feeling fear, who can come back from breaking points. Key phrase. And when it comes to using mind control on citizenships, yeah, I would say it helps a lot to be able to create minds that just go ahead and snap and don't come back from the breaking point, because our governments harness that too. What do you see on the dollar bill? Do I have a dollar bill over here? I do. I just happen to have a dollar bill. What you see on the dollar bill, someone else showed me this, and it was actually, his name was Bill Cooper, and he was a great man. and he was considered one of the first quote-unquote conspiracy theorists, but he wasn't a conspiracy theorist. He was someone who got his news from different sources, not just his preferred political one source. And as an ex-Navy intelligence officer, he would take the news that he got and fact check it, make sure it was all backed up by documents, make sure he could connect dots between multiple sources himself, and make up his own mind. Equals a conspiracy theorist in this day and age. So, but what do you see on this dollar bill? What's behind the pyramid? Nothing is behind the pyramid. And what that means, why that's significant is nothing is behind the pyramid, is because everything under that eye gets used. There is not stuff outside that pyramid because it is all in the pyramid. It is all getting used. It can all be harnessed for a grand narrative and what needs to be done, what needs to be accomplished, according to these who would do such things and use such technologies with no qualms whatsoever about it. Now, when it comes to that, anything able to be harnessed and anything that's going on will be used, is those who don't come back from the breaking point will lead to stuff like Uvalde. You see what I mean? Will lead to stuff like Highland Park along the 4th of July. Look how much that's been going on in this latest administration, back to back to back to back, where no matter what you think of the administration before, that was not going on. Look how much that's going on right now, followed by the whole pressure and urge to, we need legislation immediately. We need guns to be controlled immediately, so we will come into the house and get guns immediately. In order to make sure this never happens. This needs to stop happening. This can never happen again. This can never happen again. And at the same time, they say that. Look at the testing goes on. Why would you need rabbits that are the size of horses? Why would you need to say this can never happen again when it comes to this agenda with people not being able to defend themselves? But at the same time, Wuhan can leak things like coronavirus. Wuhan can leak things. There was Wuhan lab ties to the monkeypox virus that broke out. The first breakout was what, in European rave among the gay community, is what I'm seeing in headlines. So, but it has ties with a Wuhan lab. That again, Wuhan's labs received millions and millions of dollars from, who do you think? Guess. His name starts with an F. So, and he recently got his own virus. So, but I mentioned that with the lab-sized rabbits. Why do you need lab-sized rabbits, horse-sized rabbits? Why would you need horse-sized rabbits? Why would you need these kinds of mutations? And at the same time, how is it that these viruses got leaked? But this can never happen again. This can never happen again. This incident, look how many people coronavirus has killed. Look how many people, and coronavirus has been around, but look how many people the new COVID-19 strain, as it's being called, never being isolated yet, has killed. And now look what's going on with the monkeypox virus from the same lab. Just saying. So, it should be incredible to you. It should be staggering to you that at the same time those can be leaked, you know. These shooting incidences, this can never happen again. We're coming for all the guns. Yeah, if we're coming for all the guns, why haven't these labs been raided and basically windows boarded up? I see this is way more dangerous than one AR-15, you know, in the hands of a crazy person. And these background checks are not going to do anything. This is a joke. All that is control, because these background checks, these people who are doing this, when the mind snaps and doesn't come back from the point of no return, they're still going to use it. And these people who this happens to, unfortunately, they're these background checks are not going to stop them from doing what they do and going mass incident, homicidal, crazy, psychotic. They don't sit there and think about the consequences of what others think of some sort of a title. You see what I mean? The guys who have these titles and do sit there and think about that are way more likely, if they can sit there and think about that to where they're not snapping and going mass incident homicidal, are probably sitting there and thinking about right and wrong. You see what I mean? So these men and women will probably be the type who sit there and think about what they did wrong and bettering themselves, if they even have the cognitive power to wrap their mind around a thing like a title that was given to them that said what you did was wrong, but we're going to let you live, not hang you in the streets so you can try to better yourself. But these men and women, unfortunately, are experiencing a slow hanging incident where, once again, the mind is made to snap. They call those titles that people are given and sent back into the public, they call it the slowest death sentences ever. Because they start to get strangulated. They can't get jobs. They feel estranged from their own family. They have a hard time with their own family if they have, say, a wife or a husband or children. They have a hard time with this. So all this is something to think about and take in. Because when you take in these men and women who have these titles and these backgrounds, who are thinking about bettering their life, and then you throw in mind control technology and governments with no qualms about using those mind control technology, who do you think is more of a bargaining chip and more of an open property and territory to experiment with? You see what I mean? So again, conspiracy theorist style, go ahead and make those dots and those connections for your own self without me saying it. Because now, if they don't come back from the point of no return, which is what they are glad to study in these departments who have no qualms about using this tech, this high tech, this very unethical tech, voice to skull, V2K it's called, and that's just one facet of a wider shit festival diamond in the whole mind control technology spectrum. Yeah, sorry about the air conditioner. I don't know how noisy that thing cranks. But I hope, essentially, if they use this tech and they have no qualms, again, the biggest bargaining chip or the biggest open gateway to being able to use it, and they didn't have qualms about the people without these titles who are trying to better themselves. They're going to get these guns whether there's a background or not. That is just a facade to be able to control your average citizen, your average member of society who is actually way most likely just a good person. And if we sort of loop that back around, those who have these background checks, once again, they're going to snap anyway. They're going to do it with a knife. They could grab a big stone and just start bashing a skull in. Sorry to be so graphic, but they're going to find a way. When they do snap, they will find a way. And unfortunately, you might consider that if they don't have the weapons to murder, they are just going to be more sneaky and nuanced, and they're going to become masterminds. A lot like China with the mind control technology might be grabbing a rock and bashing over the skull, whereas, like I was saying, here in the US, it's much more nuanced and hyper mastered to subtle levels of insidious mastery, to where you, just like the hormones in your food, you don't detect the poisons. You don't detect it very often, and it just slowly starts to take hold. To where some who are more hypersensitive will detect it, but they will just be passed off and discredited. Very easy, with a myriad of textbook terms. For famous textbook terms for what they have, what they might have, what you can just pass them off as having, so you can go about way more easy and way more comfortable with your 9 to 5, your daily grind. You see what I mean? So, now, again, when it comes to these who are just trying to better themselves, those who are just trying to better themselves, if they are a much more open gateway and considered more fair game with those who already have no more qualms about using this technology, as I was trying to get to earlier. What that means is those who finally do snap are as much a gold chip as those who are able to be recorded as coming back from the point of no return. This is all stuff to think about, because either way you are creating a compliance. You see what I mean? What is wanted, above all, more than anything else, is total control. And all total control takes is some sort of a compliance. Either way, either and anyway, up, down, left, right, in, out, it is omnidirectional. It is not just omnidirectional, but it is all under that eye. It is all inside of a pyramid, whether it's the base of the pyramid, whether it's just underneath that truncated pyramid at the top where the eye is. It is all in the pyramid. It is all in the eye. And like you see a desert in the background, there is something that is not going to be harvested. And the harvest is on now. The summer has happened. The summer, where they speak of this summer, is get prepared for this summer. Get prepared for this summer. And I'm not talking about the Arab Spring. I am talking about a different kind of summer. It is an interdimensional summer. It has nothing to do with the spring, summer, fall, winter, except for the spring, summer, fall, winter of this linear year that rotates around our sun, is sort of the below that's reflecting a greater above and a greater below. So it's really more of a middle ground in a way, but it's reflective of a bigger picture. And the summer has already happened. And now we have entered the gateway of this summer, and you should be prepared. You should be prepared. You should be prepared to tie this whole thing off and to put that capstone on it, pun kind of intended, is basically, again, what you should be prepared for now very much has to do with the mind, and those who would enter the mind for total control, total interdimensional control, and want to create through coercion, want to create I'm sorry, what was the word I just used? Compliance. There's going to be a compliance either way. That's what just about all sides who have greater technology are. At least they can agree on they want to work together that much. That's why there hasn't been nuclear war yet and already. So they all agree on that much. G7 summit, this, that, and the other. WEF, this, that, and the other. Bilderberger, this, that, and the other. Whether you want to say that cheesy, hokey word now everyone just laughs at. Illuminati, Bavarian shit, the Bohemian Grove, this, that, and the other. They at least agree on this much. They all want to create, similarly, through coercive means, compliances. They all agree that this is going to happen, and the end is about to justify the means. So, we're just the petri dish, and when it comes to place in this world, and a place in this world of importance, these are the elites, these are the cabal, this, that, and the other. To them, in their minds, it's just them that's popping around off each other, looking for their place, jockeying for pole position. Sometimes they'll work together, sometimes they'll fight. But again, what they all agree on is we are the petri dish, and a coercive means of the compliances are going to be happening either way. So I will leave it at that. But as a final word, it just, when it comes to the mind being fried, Stranger Things 4, Montauk, mindful here. When it comes to the mind being fried, that's the thing. There's so many bright minds who could help us. The mind gets fried top down. And as the mind gets fried from top down, a compartmentalization occurs where you are seeing the mind get more and more compartmentalized and more fried towards the very primitive base. And what's at the primitive base is what's called the R complex. And that is the primitive brain we all have. This compartmentalized feature of the mind is also called the narrative or the linear mind, and it's also synonymous with the cold-blooded mind and the reptilian mind. That's why it's called the R complex. It basically essentially means the reptile complex. And as the mind gets fried more and more, it is top down. So those who could help us very much have been fried to where they can more easily be discredited. And again, that ties into, has this person who's undergoing a process of the mind being fried, are they coming back from the point of no return, or are they just finally snapping and becoming cold-blooded killers to where they can't handle it, and they can't handle this reality anymore? They can't handle these other realities they are now experiencing from these processes, from these programs that they are undergoing, to where it's not just this reality, they're being introduced to other whole realities and undergoing a mutation. And there's a lot more when it comes to that I won't get into right now. But I will say that a lot of these mutations and experiences they are also being called, and very often they're being mistaken for mutations of ascending, mutations beyond the fourth dimension, mutations beyond the limitations of what we've perceived as compartmentalized linear time into other dimensions, greater grasping and greater not grasping at all, and unhinged, as in what many people are just calling 5D awakenings, this, that, and the other. So, and some of it is, but some of it is made to seem that way, to almost like a trapdoor spider, or just an orb-weaving spider, or just any other frickin' Black Widow, brown recluse, hollowing you out on the inside once it gets its claws and its jaws into you. It's just traps, and it seems like awakening stages and awakening symptoms. But then people are awakening to the horrors that it would have been that, and could have been that, and should have been that. But it turns out that there's factions who are inception or interception, setting these meetings up, setting these incidents up, and then just sucking the life out of it, you know. But anyway, yeah, we might call this a part one, just to wrap it all up. That was my basic point. That's what I sort of leapt out of the gate with, was that China, what is China doing? Just like the space race, just like the nuclear race with all these other countries, Iran, this, that, and the other, trying to catch up to us and what we've already mastered. Now, that is a thought, that is something you need to bear in mind, because as we master ourselves as we go along in these timeline fractures, these timeline splits, to where there's timelines greater and lesser attached to anything else at all that has to do with any linear reality, is we are up against something that has no qualms about harnessing these technologies that see us developing and evolving, and these elites want to own it. They want to own it, just like we see. And again, one more time, that pyramid with the all-seeing eye and the truncated, the pyramid underneath it, that omnidirectionally, no matter where you go, it is harnessing. You are just another brick in the wall, as it were, to them. So, thank you for tuning in to this important talk. and this is what's going on in the world. This is what's more relevant. This is what's not in the news, and the reason it's not in the news is because we're distracted a lot by things like wars that are carefully engineered. We're distracted a lot by narratives that it's going on out there somewhere near Beijing, out there somewhere near Wuhan. You know, look what happened in Wuhan and all these other out there's, though, that is now catching fire everywhere in the world. So it does affect all of us, and we all need to be prepared, and we all need to stop putting others down and saying, oh, we need to stop doing their bad work, not good work. We need to stop their doing what they call their good work for them. We need to stop helping them and going around discrediting others. You know, we need to start taking, we need to be critical thinkers, but not just automatically bat down others from the sky and discredit their experiences so that we can more easily live out our 9 to 5 and be a better slave for these pricks. So, okay, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. Be careful. Have a great rest of your summer. I hope to get more uploads in. Hopefully some really great artistic uploads. I'm actually working on a Psytrance album right now, but now is not the time to be like plugging my latest creative projects. I'm just saying, I am busy. I am being creative. That's why you're not seeing a lot of stuff. It's just I wanted to stay on the move creative. And there is my alarm, which tells me to stay busy and keep being productive. So I'm going to follow through on that. Everybody take care.